Welcome back to The Big Picture. I'm Theodore McClendon, Theo the Thinker from McClendonReport.com, and this thing is getting hot and heavy. We're talking about the subject of sex, especially among young people and teens. You know, there's a real problem in America, the fear of talking about sex. They don't have that problem so much in Europe. Right. Even though the television is just as suggestive in America, and just as risque in certain instances, yet when the frank discussion is called for, Americans run and hide in a corner as opposed to Europeans who will go ahead and discuss the subject head on. To what do you attribute that? What's the deal with that?
Well, you know, and also if you look at European statistics, they don't have the problem with teen pregnancy that we have, you know, because Europeans, they start very early teaching their young people about sex. You know, you walk into a European household and everybody might be strolling to the bathroom naked. So, you know, whereas here we're very uptight, we're very closed, and we don't feel very comfortable talking to our young people about sex. You know, if you kind of talk to people you know and say, well, how did your kids learn about sex? They're like, well, I don't know, I didn't tell them. So they're just like, I don't care how he learns about it, how she learns about it, as long as I don't have to talk about it. You know, so it's interesting because we're very uptight, you know, about talking about it, but you know, we will listen to it, we will watch it, we will go to the movies and let our 9-year-old kids sit through sex scenes.
Right.
But no one takes them after that and explains to them what was going on and how that should affect them.
Exactly.
You know,
when I think about the education process, I think about what I asked you a few months ago. I said, well, when I really get down to the brass tacks with my youngsters, I want Dr. Rachael to come in and give a seminar for my kids, my two younger kids. Matter of fact, we were at the zoo. Boy, a lot of times you find out through nature. The Discovery Channel, Wild America, Wild Africa, Wild Kingdom, okay? And you see in the animal kingdom, you know, how the males and females interact. And it just so happened we were at the zoo. I have a season pass at Brookfield Zoo. I'm a nature lover. I like studying the vibration of nature, for lack of a better word. And so here we are in the bison pen. And right there near the moat, you know, at where you stand and watch, and which prevents you from being run through by their horns, you're sitting there, and there's two bison that felt that it was time. They felt that it was the rutting season. And at that moment, my children were watching. One of my kids is on the set here, and she sees it. As they were watching, I called you on the phone. I knew you wouldn't answer, you're a busy lady, but I called anyway. I said, guess what I'm seeing right now, you see. But it's actually instructive, and it demonstrates that, you know, there's a big picture. There's a grand scheme to all
That's good, because a lot of people would have rushed their kids around the corner and been like, they can't see that. That's just not what they're supposed to be seeing. You know, and really, if you demonstrate it on animals, it's much easier. You know, they see it on TV. I mean, I would be shocked if your kids could sit here and tell us that they haven't seen some people having sex on TV. But when you demonstrate it on animals, at least it makes sense, you know, and there really is nothing to be embarrassed about. But most people, when it comes to sex, are even embarrassed when it comes to animals. I mean, frogs, birds, you know.
Right, exactly. And it's actually a thing of beauty.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how I use that as a teaching moment.
Right.
I sure did.
Right. No, that's great.
Now, let's talk about see, the children are going through like a minefield. Back to the sexual innuendo in the music videos and in the television programs. They're going through a minefield because no one is fleshing the subject out for them.
Right.
I don't know what's on parents' minds. They think that it's going to be automatic. You know, you figure just because you have impulses, then you'll start to understand the impulses, where, you know, a teenage boy's main thing is, well, you know, how do I take the bra off? Right. You see, you know, do I use finesse or do I use scissors? You know, either way, that's all he's thinking about, but he's not thinking about the mammary glands and different things like that.
And he's not thinking about the person behind the bra or anything like that. And that's what's really missing here. Because what parents are lacking to understand right now is that if your daughters did not feel like you love them, whether you did or not. It's all a matter of perception. If they feel like they didn't get any love, they are going to take it to the streets, to their classroom, to wherever, to try and get some of that love back.
Right.
And unfortunately, right now, the main way that boys are expressing love for these girls are making them go down on them or having sex with them.
Right.
So if you do not take the time out to spend time with your young ladies and your young men, they're going to take it to the street and find that energy and release that energy there.
Absolutely.
That's where the problem is.
That is where the problem is, and here's where the problem is as well. When you look at what I call the irresistibility factor, okay, parents really make a mistake when they tell their children that, oh, it's bad, it's not good, it's not healthy, it's not fulfilling, it's dirty. When parents tell their kids that, that's the worst thing you can tell them, because again, that goes against nature. And indeed, it's an irresistible force, and you see that in the animal kingdom. Of course, human beings are higher elevated and should treat this with a little more humanity, for lack of a better word, and they should not look at each other as objects, okay? But still, you're still battling against the irresistibility factor of nature and male and female attraction. And let me personalize this just a little bit. It made me laugh so much. I wish I would have had my DV camera or one of these studio cameras with me when I was at a seminar that your family practice had one day, and we were talking, we thought we were talking about the Indiana Back Institute. But my friend Dr. Rachael comes in with some pans that she painted on. As a matter of fact, it was some gray lucite paint in the corner. Is that what you used? I'm just joking. But the point is this. Let me make the point, okay? There's method to my madness here. It distracted the men in the room, and I was probably the youngest guy there, besides my brother Garrard, but he was in the corner. His wife had him in a headlock, and his arm was around his back. Don't look at her. You were distracting a whole lot of fellas that day, and your father was noticing it too, because he said, "Come on, we're trying to give a promo in my clinic here. Look at her. Come on." But it points to the issue of the irresistibility factor of it, and that you can't ignore that. And parents that tell their kids that it's not are doing them a great disservice.
Right. They need to teach them how to deal with the irresistibility factor.
Indeed.
You know, and people take sex and just put it in a box. Now, okay, for instance, this principal was telling a story about a 5-year-old boy who had a little 6-year-old girl in the bathroom, and she was having oral sex with the little boy. Now, this is a true story. Now, this is sad. Now, when you see a 5- and a 6-year-old in the bathroom performing some type of sexual acts on each other, that is not something they picked up on TV. These are signs that some adult has been molesting these kids. So, you know, we need to pay a little more attention to these hypersexual young people, because it is not normal activity for a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, or an 8-year-old to want to have sex with everybody.
True.
That's because an adult has violated them in such a way that they feel like that's the type of activity they need to engage in. And so that's another thing drrachel.com talks about. It talks about how to identify young kids who've been sexually molested. Because 1 in every 4 women have been sexually molested, and 1 in every 6 men have been sexually molested. Now, when you look at those numbers, and you think that 2 out of every 8 people that you know have been sexually molested, this is happening more than we know about. And so what usually happens with these people is they become very hypersexual. They have a battery of social problems as they go older, and if they don't get some type of psychological help, then they some of them fall off and are lost. So you have to pay attention to sex in so many different ways. You know, you can't just see a young person who wants to have sex with everybody and say, oh, sit around and gossip about her or him and say that they're a slut. There are reasons why these things happen like this.
So some analysis and some intervention is in order then.
Exactly. Instead of judgment. You know, we're very quick to judge people. We're very quick to say, oh, well, she's 16 and she's had 4 kids. Okay, well, why did she have 4 kids? And how old was the dad of the 4 kids? You know, so we really need to start to step back and look at society and look at things that are going on in the community as people who are trying to help, not people who are trying to cause the problem or gossip or so on and so forth. Because most young people who are in some type of sexual problems, they've got some mental problems going on there too.
Indeed, indeed. Let's use the remaining minutes here to focus in on probably one of the biggest or the most at-risk population, okay, African Americans.
Right.
And when I look at the music video, it's so ironic that hip hop and R&B are the leading forms of music.
Right.
You know, these kids are so creative that the whole world is dancing to their beat.
Right.
But at the same time, the whole world is listening to their lyrics.
Right.
And their lyrics are very, what's the word for that?
Well,
suggestive.
Yeah.
And again, so the draw is there, just like sex itself. The draw is there, but the responsibility is lacking.
Well, you know what? I think when people listen to that music, they need to recognize that that really represents a lot of what's going on. So if you could take away the social problems and the underlying reasons why they make that music, then maybe the music wouldn't be made. So, you know, we have all types of art forms. Hip hop and R&B, you know, there's very positive forms of it, and there's very negative forms of it. It just so happens that radio would rather play the more negative versions of it because that sex happens to sell. So in terms of taking back some of the responsibility, I think as a community we need to take back some of the responsibility and maybe try and remove some of the social factors which makes people make music like that. You know, if you grew up and your mom was a crackhead and your dad got shot when you were 2, how much beautiful music are you really going to make? If someone shot you 8 times, how beautiful is your music really going to be?
Wynton Marsalis said that very thing. He says, so what do you expect? Because, you know, he is just a staunch jazz aficionado, and he doesn't really want to hear too much else. He's a virtuoso in jazz. And he says, it don't surprise me, man, that them hip-hoppers are making music like that. Look at their lives. Their lives are replete with that kind of dysfunction. So they're going to make lyrics like that.
Right.
That's just what you said.
That's right. That's exactly right. And people are going to listen to it because everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be a martyr. You know, there's much more dignity in poverty than there is in growing up with a silver spoon and, you know, going off to college and blah, blah, blah. You know, I took 8 bullets. You know, I'm a man.
Right.
You know, so once we remove the social factors which are causing them to make the music like that, then maybe we can sit back and say, okay. But for everybody who talks bad about it, says, well, the lyrics, can't they do this, can't they do this? They need to get down in the trenches and realize that that's really what's going on in the community. Last week alone, 2 people that I know of got shot just standing outside their house in Garrard. This is real life. So if you expect people to sing about roses and flowers and the trees blooming, that's unrealistic. Because in a lot of communities, that's not really what's going on.
It's kind of harrowing, actually, and you've got a tremendous job ahead of you to even, you know, to even try to undertake this. And you're undertaking it. You're hitting it at the source. You're going to the epicenter of the problem, and it's something that I admire greatly. A couple closing comments, if you will, if you want to just kind of sum your situation up here.
Yeah. Well, drrachael.com, it hits sex from a lot of different angles. It hits it from the relationship angle. It hits it from the moral angle, trying to put a little more moral energy into the minds of young people. It hits it from an entertaining angle, and it hits it from a factual level. So log in, check it out, www.drrachael.com. That's spelled DRRACHAEL.
That's outstanding. Folks,